Hi, I'm Steve Wylie, General Manager of the Enterprise 2.0 Conference, and we're here in Santa Clara at the kickoff to our 2010 West Coast event. I'm here with Ted Hopton and Rachel Happe, who are the Community Development Co-Track Chairs for the conference this week. So Ted, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do in your day job when you're not putting together conferences?
I am the Community Manager for United Business Media's internal online employee community. And that keeps me plenty busy.
Short and sweet. I am the principal and co-founder of a company called Community Roundtable, and we're a peer network and a research and information services company for community managers, social business managers, social media managers, and what we're trying to do is aggregate and assemble a lot of best practices that are going on in this space right now.
So two great perspectives on obviously a topic that's growing in importance in a lot of companies. So you've all put a lot of thought into the track at the conference this week. I guess why don't you tell us kind of what's the hot topic for this year's program?
I don't know, what would you say is the hottest topic? They're all hot.
They're all hot. I think one thing for me that is critical for people coming into this at all stages is that understanding the maturity of your community or your social initiative and kind of how it gets started, how it matures, and then how it becomes strategic if you want it to be a strategic thing. And so one of the things that we're doing is starting off the conference talking to Mark Yolton, who's the SVP of Communities at SAP, and he's been doing this for a long time, and SAP has been doing this for a long time, and they've moved beyond a very tactical, we're just building a community, to taking a new approach to how they approach their market. And that's really interesting to me, and it affects both internal and external and how you integrate those two things. So I find that really interesting. And that kind of goes to the second topic, which is the internal-external.
Yeah, I was going to pick up on both the internal-external, which I think is definitely one of the trends we're seeing and that we're trying to respond to with this track, Steve. And that's, you know, companies like ours, for example, United Business Media, started with an internal community, and yet we're getting more and more comfort internally with the technology, with the community benefits, and so we're looking more and more outside and building external communities as well. And we're not alone in this. There are many companies on the same path, so that's one of our challenges. I think the other thing that's really exciting to me to see is the I don't know whether you call it the blend or just the mix of the people who are still just coming in, and so we need to be able to respond to them with sessions like our, you know, what are community managers and why do you need them? So you really can get an orientation if you don't have experience in this space. But then there are the people that have been in it for a while, and they're growing and maturing, and going back to Rachel's point about the maturity of different communities and knowing where you are, and different needs are emerging, and I think it's an exciting place to be, trying to figure out exactly how to respond to those needs.
So it's important to obviously offer something new for the people that have been doing this for a while, as well as have something that's catering to the people that are brand new at this, right? So I guess, you know, one of the things that I've been talking a lot about lately is the integration between what we're doing in these community efforts and how that aligns with specific business objectives. And I wonder, is that something you hear from a lot of the people you're talking to in putting the program together? Have we made progress in aligning community with around specific objectives where there's perhaps a little bit more concrete or measurable impact on the business?
I think so, and I think, you know, what I'm seeing is companies for the last couple of years have kind of let 1,000 flowers bloom, or maybe not let, but 1,000 flowers have been blooming, and now they're kind of saying, okay, what are we doing? How do we rationalize all this activity that's going on in pockets, and how do we make it an enterprise-wide thing, and how do we create guidelines and specifics for different business outcomes? Because, you know, we can use this and apply this in a variety of ways. If you have a very holistic community, it does provide business benefits to many different functional groups, and that can be confusing depending on how the community was started or for what purpose it was started. I think software and how you operationalize the content and programming has a huge impact on what you're trying to get out of the community, whether your end goal is collaboration or market advocacy. Those are two very different complexity outcomes, and so you need two different engagement strategies. So I see things two ways, which is I'm very multidisciplinary. I think a lot of the competencies of managing a community are shared across any of these business outcomes, but you also need to understand the context in which you're building this. And I think those best practices are starting to emerge, but it's not always clear for people who don't understand that are just coming into the discipline to begin with. And what's your perspective on that?
I think it's still a huge challenge, Steve. I don't think there really is a clear, go-to model. I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all. It's something we're still struggling with, and lots of different organizations are struggling with to find, how they actually can tie back to what their, the impact of all this activity, which is, it's almost abundantly and inherently obvious there are positive aspects to it, as Rachel referred to, but being able to tie it to concrete numbers, I still find that a struggle. I think some organizations are doing it better than others, but I think it's still a huge challenge out there.
I think that may be why we're seeing more activity on the marketing and support fronts, because it's closer to revenue and cost incursions. Collaboration has a lot of challenges when you start to say, okay, what are the outcomes we're trying to drive at, and what are the activities that are going on in the community, and how do you pair those with the collaborative outcomes that we want? It can be confusing depending on what you're looking at.
I was going to mention that, and you've got a unique perspective on this, sort of straddling both external communities as well as internal communities with the Community Roundtable group. Wednesday morning is opening keynote is Paul Greenberg, big CRM guru, and the premise of his talk is exactly that. It's how do we can't begin to engage with our customers outside of the business in this sort of open the floodgates social media world until we really learn how to communicate and collaborate and surface the right information inside the business. Is that something, do you see that with some of your member organizations? Is that a reality?
Well, so I see a lot of people who are doing it outside now trying to bring it inside because of that very problem. And I take it up to a macro level and say, okay, fundamentally what social software is doing is making the information environment much faster, which is making the speed of everything faster. So if you're participating in that way externally and not internally, things are going to come to a grinding halt at the firewall. Similarly, if you're innovating that quickly internally but have no access to market channels, then you're mitigating the opportunity that you can achieve by implementing social inside the firewall. So, I think doing one or the other really pushes you into the other space, whether you want to or not, because it just creates, if you don't, it creates a lot of tension between different organizations or different functions within your organization.